Miguel makes $49,200 a year as a project coordinator in Austin. He knows the exact number because he Googled what is $23.65 an hour annually 3 times when he got the offer letter, just to make sure the math was right. $49,200 felt like a victory. It was $11,000 more than his last job. Enough to finally cover rent without sweating the last week of the month. Enough to stop declining dinner invitations because his checking account had $84 in it. But here's what's weird. Miguel still feels broke. Not I can't pay my bills broke. Not I'm drowning in debt broke. But broke in the way where every purchase is a negotiation. Where he's doing mental math at the grocery store. Where he buys the cheap shampoo because the good one is $4 more and $4 matters. Then something happens. 15 months later, he gets promoted. New salary, $52,500. It's a $3,300 raise. After taxes, that's about $200 extra a month. Objectively, not life-changing. It won't buy a house. It won't pay off his student loans. It's literally $46 a week. But something in Miguel's brain shifts. He stops checking his bank balance before buying groceries. He replaces his falling-apart shoes without waiting for a sale. When his friends suggest a spontaneous weekend trip, he says yes without doing the math first. Same guy, same city, same expenses, roughly, but $3,300 a year and suddenly money feels completely different. Not easy, not abundant, just possible. My name is your name. I run Money Sketcher, and this is the breakdown of why $50,000 in income creates a psychological threshold that researchers have been studying for 20 years, why your brain literally processes money differently above and below that line, and why understanding this might explain every confusing feeling you've ever had about your paycheck. If you've ever made more money and somehow still felt broke, or wondered why a small raise changed everything when the math says it shouldn't have, hit subscribe because the psychology here is genuinely fascinating. Let me show you what the data says. In 2010, Princeton researchers Daniel Kahneman and Angus Deaton published a study that asked 450,000 Americans about their income and their daily emotional experience. They were looking for the income level where money stops improving your day-to-day happiness. And they found it, $75,000 a year. But here's what most people missed when that study went viral. The effect doesn't start at $75,000. It starts way earlier. The biggest emotional jump, the steepest improvement in daily well-being, happens between $30,000 and $60,000. And right in the middle of that range, at about $50,000, something specific happens. Your brain stops operating in scarcity mode. Not completely, not perfectly, but measurably. A follow-up study from the University of Pennsylvania in 2021 refined this. They found that below $50,000, people's stress responses to financial decisions look identical to their stress responses to physical threats. Your brain literally processes, can I afford this? The same way it processes, am I in danger? Above $50,000? That response diminishes. Not gone, but quieter. Your prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain that does planning and rational decision-making, gets more space. And here's the kicker. This happens independent of debt, independent of where you live, independent of how you were raised. $50,000 isn't about lifestyle. It's about neurology. That's the thesis. Quick disclaimers because someone's already typing. I'm not saying everyone at $50,000 is happy or everyone below it is miserable. I'm not saying money doesn't matter above $50,000. And I'm definitely not saying systemic issues don't exist. What I am saying, there's a measurable, reproducible psychological shift that happens around this number, and if you've experienced it, you're not imagining it. Keep that in mind. Let's talk about what happens in your brain when you cross $50,000. There's a concept in behavioral psychology called cognitive load. It's how much mental energy you're using just to get through the day. When you're below $50,000, a huge portion of your cognitive load is consumed by financial micro-decisions. Can I afford the $12 lunch or should I pack something? Is this $40 shirt worth it? Can I Uber or do I need to take the bus? Each decision is tiny, but you're making 20, 30, 50 of them a day, and each one uses bandwidth. Researchers at Harvard found that people making under $50,000 spend an average of 13 hours per week thinking about money. Not managing it, just thinking about it, worrying about it, Calculating it. Above $50,000, that drops to about 5 hours. You just got 8 hours of your brain back every week. That's a whole workday's worth of mental energy no longer spent on survival math. Here's where it gets interesting. When you're in scarcity mode, you make decisions fast. Because you have to. You don't have the luxury of weighing options. You take the cheapest apartment, the first job offer, the solution that stops the bleeding. Columbia researchers call this tunneling. Same concept from the earlier scripts, different income context. Your vision narrows. You optimize for immediate relief, not long-term benefit. At $50,000, your time horizon expands. Suddenly you can think about next year. You can compare options. You can pass on an okay opportunity because a better one might come. You're not smarter. You just have room to use your intelligence. This one's more subtle, but it shows up in interviews consistently. Below $50,000, people report constant low-level shame around money. Not from spending too much, from spending at all. Buying coffee feels indulgent. Taking a sick day feels irresponsible. Saying, I can't afford that feels like admitting failure. Above $50,000, that shame quiets. You're not rich. You're not worry-free. But you stop feeling like every normal human need is a moral failing. Psychologists at UC Berkeley found that this shame reduction is one of the biggest predictors of whether someone's income increase actually improves their mental health. The money matters less than the permission it gives you to stop apologizing for existing. Okay, so you hit $50,000. What actually changes in your behavior? This is where the research gets specific. Below $50,000, you're in reactive mode. The car breaks, you fix it. The tooth hurts, you go to the dentist. Above $50,000, you start preventing. You get the oil changed on schedule. You go to the dentist before the tooth hurts. You replace the tires when they're worn, not when they blow out. Why? Because you can afford the $100 prevention, which means you avoid the $1,200 emergency. A study from the Financial Health Network found that people making $50,000 plus spend 40% less on emergency repairs and medical crises than people making $45,000, despite having similar assets and debts. They're not luckier, they're preventing. This one's huge. Below $50,000, you optimize for cost. You'll drive 20 minutes to save $3 on groceries. You'll spend 2 hours fixing something instead of paying $40 for a repair. Above $50,000, you start valuing your time. Not because you're selfish, because you can afford to. The $3 savings isn't worth the 40-minute round trip. The $40 repair buys you 2 hours to do literally anything else. MIT researchers found this shift happens almost universally around $50,000. Below it, people trade time for money. Above it, they start trading money for time. And here's why that matters. Trading money for time is what lets you build skills, relationships, and health. The things that actually compound. Below $50,000, every expense is consumption. Even necessary ones feel like loss. Above $50,000, you start categorizing differently. Some expenses become investments. The $200 work certification isn't spending, it's career development. The $50 gym membership isn't luxury, it's health maintenance. The $30 book isn't indulgence. It's learning. Same purchases, different framing, and the framing changes your behavior. People above $50,000 invest significantly more in education, health, and skill development, not because they have way more money, but because they have the mental framework to see those as investments instead of just costs. This is the one that shows up in career data. Below $50,000, you can't afford to take risks. You stay in the bad job because quitting without another offer could be catastrophic. You don't negotiate because losing the offer would be devastating. Above $50,000, you have a buffer, small but real. You can take the interview. You can negotiate. You can quit the toxic job and take a month to find the right one instead of the immediate one. And that changes your entire career trajectory. People who cross $50,000 before age 30 end up earning, on average, 30% more by age 40 than people who cross it after 30. Not because they're smarter, because they had room to make strategic moves instead of desperate ones. Here's the question everyone asks. Why $50,000? Why not $40,000 or $60,000? The answer is partly mathematical, partly psychological, partly cultural. $50,000 covers the basics in most of the U.S. Median rent in the U.S. is about $1,400 per month. $50,000 after taxes is roughly $3,400 per month. Depending on state, that leaves about $2,000 for everything else. Food, transportation, utilities, insurance, debt payments. It's tight, but it fits without constant crisis. Below $50,000, the math doesn't work in most places without sacrifice. Above it, you have breathing room. $50,000 is the point where your income exceeds your basic needs plus a small buffer. That buffer, even if it's just $200 to $300 a month, changes how your brain categorizes your financial situation. Below it, you're in deficit mode. Every month is a challenge to break even. Above it, you're in surplus mode. Not wealthy, but surplus. And your brain treats surplus completely differently than deficit. $50,000 has become a cultural benchmark. Job listings use it as a threshold. Up to $50,000 versus $50,000 plus. Sociologists use it to define working class versus middle class. Marketers use it to segment audiences. So even if the number is somewhat arbitrary, it carries psychological weight because we've collectively agreed it means something. Okay, let's talk to Miguel. Let's talk to everyone sitting at $38,000 or $44,000 or $48,000 wondering if this actually matters. Here's what I need you to understand. Getting to $50,000 isn't about the money. It's about getting your brain back. Every study on income and well-being says the same thing. The primary benefit of earning $50,000 instead of $40,000 isn't what you can buy. It's the mental energy you recover. You stop spending 13 hours a week in financial anxiety. You start making decisions based on what's right instead of what's cheapest. You get access to the part of your brain that plans for the future instead of just surviving the present. And that recovered bandwidth is what lets you build everything else. Here's the permission I want to give you. If you're below $50,000, optimizing for getting there is not shallow. It's strategic. Not because $50,000 makes you happy, because it gives you the mental space to pursue the things that actually do. You want to know when I crossed $50,000? I was 27. I'd been at $42,000 for 2 years, and I was so stuck in scarcity mode that I couldn't see past it. I was budgeting to the dollar, optimizing grocery purchases, declining every social event that cost money, and I was miserable. Not because I'm materialistic, because I was spending every ounce of mental energy on financial defense. Then I switched jobs. New salary, $53,000. $11,000 raise. After taxes, about $650 per month more. And I remember thinking, this won't change anything. But it did. Within 3 months, I stopped checking my balance before buying lunch. I replaced my dying laptop without a panic attack. I started saying yes to things. Did $53,000 make me rich? No. I still had $40,000 in student loans. I still couldn't afford a house. I was still budgeting. But I got my brain back. I stopped spending every evening worrying about money and started spending evenings learning skills. I took a certification course I couldn't have afforded the headspace for before. I had the bandwidth to job hunt strategically instead of desperately. And 18 months later, I was at $68,000. Not because I worked harder, because I had the mental space to work smarter. The $50,000 threshold didn't change my life. It gave me the capacity to change it myself. Here's how to think about the $50,000 threshold. If you're below it, Step 1. Treat getting there as your primary financial goal. Not paying off all debt. Not buying a house. Getting your income to $50,000. Because at $50,000, every other goal gets easier. Step 2. Optimize for income growth, not expense reduction. Below $50,000, you've already cut everything you can cut. The budget is tight. More deprivation won't get you there. What gets you there? Skills, certifications, job switches, negotiations, side income. Step 3. Value your bandwidth. Stop trading hours for $5 savings. Your mental energy is your most valuable asset. Protect it. If you're above it, Step 1. Recognize the shift happened. You're not imagining it. Your brain does work differently now. Use that. Step 2. Invest the recovered bandwidth. You have 8 hours a week back. Don't spend it scrolling. Spend it building. Step 3. Don't inflate lifestyle to match. The trap above $50,000 is lifestyle creep. You have room to breathe. Don't fill it with new expenses. Fill it with investments that compound. That's the framework. Look, I can't get you to $50,000. I can't make your boss give you a raise. I can't hand you a new job. But I can tell you this. If you're below that threshold and you feel like you're losing your mind over money even though you're doing everything right, you're not broken. You're in scarcity mode. And scarcity mode rewires your brain in ways that make everything harder. Getting to $50,000 won't fix everything, but it'll give you your brain back. And with your brain back, you can fix the rest. So here's what I want you to do. If you're below $50,000, make getting there your primary goal for the next 12 to 24 months. Not through deprivation, through income growth. If you're above $50,000, recognize what changed. Protect that bandwidth. Use it intentionally. If this helped you understand why that number feels so significant, do me a favor and subscribe to Money Sketcher. I break down the psychology of money so you can understand what you're feeling and what to do about it. And if you want a free income growth roadmap with the specific tactics that got me and hundreds of others across this threshold, I'll link it in the description. No upsell, just tactics. Because the world is full of people telling you to budget better or save more. But nobody's talking about the neuroscience of income thresholds and why getting to $50,000 changes everything even when the math says it shouldn't. I'll see you in the next breakdown. And Miguel? He's at $61,000 now. Same city, same apartment, but he doesn't do mental math at the grocery store anymore. And he sleeps through the night. Sometimes the most important financial goal isn't the biggest number. It's the number that gives you your brain back.